City of Lawrence Common Council Code Review Committee meeting is starting right now. The time now is 5:35, and it's November the 6th, 2023. We're going to open up proposal number 8, 2023, repealing certain secondary business permit fees in Title I, Article 1 and 2 of the Lawrence Municipal Code. I'm going to open the floor up now for discussion.
Madam Chair, this is an amended version of the original request that I authored. I don't know if everyone has seen the updated version.
Do you want me to explain it, Councilor? Is that all right, Madam Chair? Yes. Okay. So per the recommendation of the folks that spoke on it at our last code committee meeting, we have kept, meaning we've taken out the repeal. In other words, we've maintained the requirement for a permit for door-to-door salesmen, or what's called in the code peddlers, and for daycares, both for safety and so we know, who's coming door to door and who's running a daycare center from a public health and safety perspective. I think we all agreed that made a whole lot of sense. And then the remaining permits that are currently required for only certain specialties are still being eliminated. Sure.
My name is Sri, city engineer, so I also oversee Department of Public Works. So just wanted to I saw the amended version. I still have, as a DPW standpoint, we still have some concerns about the other permits that are eliminated, especially after my conversations with Brina Yates from Restore Skin Therapy, and kind of trying to understand what triggered their concern about this permit, repealing this permit for massage. And I understand the state mandates how a massage therapist is being licensed and stuff, which is 10 years ago, it was nothing there. Now they have stepped up and the licensing is very strict now. But I also have a concern that as a city, if we don't know what businesses are out there, it's going to be a concern. I mean, we need to know what there is out there for any kind of action on them. I mean, like law enforcement is one, emergency is still one. So keeping childcare and removing massage therapy, massage parlors out of this, I don't understand the logic. But my concerns are a couple of, after talking, I had a very good conversation with Brina and her husband about understanding what are some of their concerns. Their concerns, and again, I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just conveying what I talk to you. The concern is the way we are requiring these permits. So the background checks that we are asking them to do for each of the massage therapists in their parlor, the doctor's certification that we are requiring, which these massage technicians or whatever parlor people, they have to go through the certification to the state to qualify to be that person, right? So, but the concerns that I've heard from them is a valid concern. If the state is already doing that, why are we doubling that, and why are we going on top of that to ask for more? And not only just for the business owner, we are asking them for each and every employee that is going to be there, which in my mind is completely unfair. And when this ordinance was put in place 20 years ago, the Ford was being transformed from a Ford into and there was a lot of illegitimate massage parlors that people thought are going to come up, and that's when these kind of restrictions were brought in place via an ordinance. Ever since, fast forward 15-20 years, the state has doubled down on some of these requirements and has made sure that some of these has to be licensed, and they go through that process. So that was a concern I heard from them. It's not about having to pay a permit fee, or Brina understood that city we need to know what businesses are out there. And having them have to pay $1,000 for every time a massage, every year is to me, and when childcare is only paying $25, is unfair. So to me, what I understood from the conversations with them is it's not the permit or the requirements are very, very over the top that is unnecessary, which I completely understand that, because if the state is doing it, we don't have to do it. All we would want is for the business owner to come to us once a year, show their license, and say this is, and pay the fees and get it done. Anytime they hire a person, it's on them to make sure that the person who they are hiring is a licensed person. So that's not on the city. But right now, that's how we are rolling. That's how we are operating. Is we are asking them to provide that background check, that medical certificate or doctor certificate for every single person they hire to employ there. So my recommendation is to lower the fees and eliminate some of those requirements that we are currently following, and make it kind of a very kind of general requirement that once a year the business owner will come to us for a business fee in a business registration, and I'm proposing a $250 fee instead of a $1,000 fee, and basically leaving it up to the business owner to make sure that they hire the right person to do the job. And right now we are going extreme on that end, and that's why some of the concerns I heard from them is valid, and I feel it is valid concerns they have. And and revising any language that talks about anything that shouldn't be talking about now, like again, Councilor Whitfield mentioned, like some of the language in the ordinance itself it needs to be revised, and anything that talks about such things. Again, these ordinances were built in place 20 years ago. So, I don't know what the thought process went into those. So anything, those kind of revisions has to happen. But I still strongly believe that we still need to have this permit fees, lower the permit fees, eliminate the requirements for some of the extreme requirements that we have in there, and come up with a reasonable requirement that they come and show us what the license they have for the business owner, and we issue the registration, and then they can move on. And and then I also recommend that if we are doing that, we would have to raise the fee for the child care too. A $25 fee for a child care. And when you have a $250 for a massage parlor, to me, childcare has to have more restrictions there. So I think we need to make sure that this comparable across the border, and I haven't looked into what a reasonable fee for a childcare facility is, but my thought is it has to be comparable over the board for everybody, not just one business. So that is, and I haven't looked into detail about some of the other permits, but there are when I looked at in very general, I didn't get a chance to look into detail. Even some of the other permits, they have a multiple I think there are not just one fee, there are different kinds of fees and sort of that. And maybe we eliminate some of those complicacies and then come up with a general, fee for some of the other ones, because I forgot to print it out, but it's not one fee. Some of those permits have different kind of criteria and different kind of tiers too, which makes it a little bit more complicated for the. But taxi cabs, I don't see a reason for us to register taxi cabs, because it's a state licensing and they do go through all that process. But we do have every once in a while we do get permits for fairs, where they have to. So we need to know what's going on out in the city, and if we don't, if we don't have any kind of permit mechanism, we will never have idea on what's going on.
So what you're recommending is dropping the fee from
$1,000 to $250,
okay,
and eliminating some of the requirements.
That's once a year?
Once a year is what it is now.
Okay. So would the license of the technicians be?
Yeah, right now, Brina can talk about it. Every single employee that you hire, you have to come here to show a background check. You know the process a lot more than me, so.
Yes, so I'm Brina Yates. I own Restore Skin Therapy at 5719 Lawton Loop. That's okay, you're fine. And every massage therapist that comes to work in my facility has to come to the city and have a unconsented background check, as well as go to the physician's office and have a letter written that they do not have any communicable diseases. And along with that letter and fill out the form, they have to pay a $500 fee every year. So what we're asking is that piece of the massage therapy part to go away. And I'm fine as a business owner paying a $250 fee yearly to the city. I'm fine with that. Because I do my own background check on my staff. Anybody that comes to work for me, I will do my own checks on my staff before they come. And it's very simple for anyone, or even the city, to hop onto the website for all people that are licensed within the state, doctors, dentists,
Even myself,
chiropractors,
yeah.
yourself, myself, and to type their name in to see that their license is current, as well as any possibility of any discretionary action that they've had against them.
So, Shri, I'm sorry, may I ask a question? Sure. Are you suggesting that every business of any kind that does business in Lawrence gets a permit?
Not really. So some of
why
them, the health department issues those permits for restaurants, but I think we still have to have some kind of, I don't know about all the, I mean, there is a business permit section in our ordinance, and I haven't.
So, yeah, and so that's my question. Why are we picking on certain types of businesses and having what seem to me to be arbitrary permit amounts and permit requirements? Like, I'm an attorney. If I did business in Lawrence, are you saying I have to come in and give you a background check and pay you $250 because I'm a professional? Do we do this for doctors? Do we do it for CPAs? I understand that. One of my fears is that what is happening here in this industry is that that people are assuming that there's something lurid going on here, and something criminal can happen at any business. That's a criminal matter for the police department to enforce. I get massages all the time. I've been all over town. I've never heard of a massage parlor getting singled out in this way. I think it's discriminatory. I think it's unseemly, and it's not something I'd recommend that the council continue. And I think picking and choosing between businesses and who you require to have a permit and who you don't is not a great way to conduct the business of the city. A general business permit with a flat fee that's reasonable, that's applicable to everyone, I think meets your desire to know what's going on in the city and who's doing business in the city. Picking and choosing and having like an unconsented criminal background check, a medical.
Yeah, those are.
And I mean, we have all kinds of other requirements that are in there that are really just outdated. I mean, we
Chris,
can't.
I completely agree. That's
Yeah,
when I first heard from Breen, I was like, that is crazy. We shouldn't be asking any of those, especially when the state clearly tells them how the licensing is working, right? There is a
Right.
process that they have to go through to get this.
Right.
So for us to ask those kind of extreme documentation, I'm completely agree.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So how does the existing business permit requirement not meet your need?
Can you give me an example? A lot of the current ordinances we have, I have to agree, it's outdated. So back in 3 years ago, we fixed a lot of those, right? We've eliminated a lot of duplicacies. We eliminated a lot of, to me, this is one step in the right direction to look at what other permits can we clean it up now. And to me, instead of eliminating all these permits and fees, how do we make it more usable for both parties, right? For us, we would still know what a license or a registered massage or a chiro or a childcare is in the city, instead of not knowing what is going on out there. But I also agree that the current process of asking for this kind of documentation is unnecessary and unwarranted.
Yeah.
So, and again, there are other, I mean, in the future years, we still have a plan to look at some of the other ordinances, because there are a lot of ordinances that are out there that we haven't even looked at.
Absolutely.
You know, and this is, again, you know, it could be a whole year, we could change a lot of this, but we're taking it one step at a time.
Right.
So, and this, when this was brought up, and I also feel like this is a time to look it up, this section, and see what is best for how to make it work for the city and for the business owners. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and for now, I would just say, for this committee, this would be probably step one, as Shri is saying, and potentially.
There is more, and I am looking at, for the council to know, we are already looking at a food truck ordinance. We don't have one now, so we don't have absolute any control on how the food trucks and how we permit it. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at a special events permit, because we don't have one now. So, we have one, but it is very general, and it is not meeting. It's again, it creates a issue between the applicant and the city on how it is written and how we have to implement it. So we are looking at some of those, looking at best practices out there for other cities and how they are doing it, and coming up with a plan. So we are just slowly taking one step, you know, in the right direction for some of these permits.
All right, so Ken, seeing that I'm the author of this bill, I have some clarifying questions, because I got information during this conversation that I was not aware of. So I want to clarify something. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, do we have a general business permit at this time? Does that exist now?
I do not think so.
No.
Okay, so that means that that's something that we would have to look at.
Correct.
You want to culminate all of these different permits under.
Correct.
And the second thing then, for clarification, is I'm hearing from the business that brought this to my attention in the beginning, is that they're accepting a possibility of a business permit they threw out a number of 250. But is that specifically, I still feel like it's specifically targeting that business. So that's my concern too. Can I have and ask our chief of police to come down, please? Good evening.
I've been listening to the conversation, and I completely understand what Shree's talking about, as well as the general business permit. It does give the option of not singling out a specific business for their practices or what they're doing. I think that having that additional information helps us. If something does happen in the event, we have to make contact with the business owner, if we have to investigate the business, it's better for us to have that information up front where we can look at that and see what we need to do on investigative purposes, but not for a general permit of what DPW is looking for a business to become licensed here in the city.
Okay.
So I agree with the general permit concept. So that does let us know, hey, if there is a club coming into the city of Lawrence, we would like to know that information, and also be able to look to see, hey, do they have any history in Marion County anywhere else? But if there's no permit at all, then we're kind of left in the blind until something happens out here, and we could have kind of headed it off sooner rather than later.
And I definitely understand that, because recently of what happened over at 65th and Benford, with that they leased out and they got citations because of not being known that they were going to have this party and everything. And so I do understand that we probably need to know what's coming into our city and what we're doing. But I guess my concern, again, is what we keep saying. If we don't have a general business, what can we do right now? I'm looking at our lawyer to rectify the original opportunity, I don't want to say complaint, but the original interest that was brought to our attention. What can we do now as we're continuing to build and look for a general business permit? I think that's the question that I have.
Thank you, Counselor, and I think that's a very good question. My recommendation at this time would be as follows, that you consider recommending this as the first step in a multi-phase approach to perhaps looking towards, a general business permit. I don't think we can do a general business permit as part of this ordinance. It wasn't noticed as being that. We need to give other business types who are not affected by this ordinance an opportunity to review and comment, and probably talk more about what that would look like with everybody in the city. So I believe strongly that these particular provisions that we've identified are antiquated, outdated, and frankly discriminatory to those business types and should be eliminated by the council, generally speaking. And then if the council wants to look into a general business permit, which I think is a very good idea for all the reasons that Sri and the chief already stated, we ought to do that. I think it makes a ton of sense. That said, when we're looking at any type of fee for a permit or an application for any city in the state, it needs to have a reasonable relationship to the actual cost that the city incurs to issue those permits. And when we start throwing out numbers like 250, maybe it's 250, maybe it's 500, I get worried that that is not grounded in the reality of what does it actually cost the city to do this. And I don't know the answer, but I think we need to take some time and look at that as well. Did that answer your question?
It did.
Thank you.
I was leaning toward that. Okay, so may I continue to ask questions? So would that suffice, Chief and Cherie, if we work towards addressing what was brought to us in the forefront and knowing that whomever we need to work to get that general business permit as the second step, would that work for both of you guys in the city of Lawrence?
Yes.
I think we need to, we shouldn't forget that that's the second step, and we need to keep working towards that, not put it in the back burner, because we need to know what's going on in the city, right? What business is coming. So it's okay to pass this, move along this one, but we need to immediately follow up with the general business. And like Chris said, when I looked at the permit changes last time 3 years ago, we looked at the fees were not just random.
Right, you had very specific reasoning.
So the ones that we are looking at, the special events, the food truck, we are also looking at what other communities are doing. So when we do a look at the general business permit, we need to look at what the best practices are, what is reasonable, and some businesses might, it might not be a one blanket fee, it might be different depending on what kinds, nature of business, what the proportion of the business is, it might be different tiers of fees too. It's based on, so just they are comparable and reasonable across the board. So I think we need to immediately follow this up with a general business permit and whatever name we want to call it. So I think that is my only suggestion is let's not forget about that and let's not keep it in the back burner. Let's do that in the next, as a second step.
So, Madam Chair, if we continue with this repealing that's in front of us now, there's no fee dollars allocated or connected to this, correct?
And I also have a question, Chris. So are we eliminating the permits or are we eliminating just the fees?
We're eliminating the permits.
Okay.
Except for daycares and door-to-door sales.
So as a second step, we also want to look at some of the fees too. Like I said, $25 for a daycare, it doesn't even cover anything we do. $20 for a peddler.
Yeah.
Anybody can come in at $20 and ask for, we need to just have some minimum standards across the board.
I agree. And I think, for those, it was also important in my mind to have a bridge until we get to that point, particularly because you're dealing with small children.
Correct.
For daycares. And with door-to-door sales, that's people
Safe
invading your private property.
Safety,
That's kind of
yeah.
different than opening your door to business for whomever wants to come in. So,
Correct.
Absolutely want to work with you on that, Sri, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So with the childcare, are we going to give notification if we're going to raise the fee from $25?
Yeah, I think the recommendation is to move forward with this one as it is. So that means that until we work on the general business permit, that's a good time to look at some of the other fees too, and maybe combine everything into, childcare and all that stuff will become part of the general business. And like I said, it'll be different tiers there. So,
And we may
whatever-
do it so it's effective a date certain, so
Right.
people know and can budget rather than
So once
everything
what
overnight.
we
But yeah, we
do
do have
is-
to give notice.
Yeah, we will usually issue a public, outreach and stuff. Just like we changed permits back in 2020, we kind of did a kind of an outreach and stuff. But yeah, until the council acts on it, we can't do anything with what the fees are.
So with other cities, are we looking at a general business permit of how much they charge?
Again, the general business permit, we haven't looked into that. That is the step 2 of this. We need to definitely work with, Chris and figure out how. And I think the couple of things that we are working right now actually is a special events permit, and also the food trucks, because that's some of the things that comes up more often than less. So the council should see that in the coming, probably next year sometime. But again, the general business permit might be part of that, another section that we add to one of those chapters. And then we look at the fees associated with some of the existing ones.
Could maybe we come up with a letter grade on these permits where they can be posted on the front door of the businesses? Like a B, C?
Yeah, I think again, these are like, we haven't looked at, the thing is, these are old ordinances, so we have a lot of work to review it. Last time we had to bring in a consultant to review a lot of this, figure out what the information from, combine all this information. Because when we propose a fees, just like Chris said, we need to justify it too. If there has to be that is things that we need to look at it at that time and brainstorm some of the best practices and how we call businesses and how we grade them.
Counselors, do you have any other questions or?
No, I'm good. Thank you for allowing me to ask those questions.
Thank you.
So we want to bring this to the full council for a motion to come before the full council?
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend to the full council the amended ordinance number 8, 2023.
Or here a second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been first and second. Motion to amend proposal number 8, 2023. All in favor? Ayes have it. Any other questions to come before?
Can we ask if in case we bring it to a vote tonight, can we ask if in case there are any questions for the full council, if they could be present, please?
Sure. Is that okay? Okay.
Thank you.
So everything has been discussed and heard by this committee. Meeting adjourned.